Good morning, folks. Welcome back to another episode. I am, as always, your host, the now award-winning hack, fraud, and charlatan, Taylor Ruddle. I'm recording in a slightly different room today, so if the acoustic's a little different, I do apologise about that, but hopefully everything is all good. This week on the podcast, I am joined by an Auckland stand-up comedian and voice actor, Bridie Thomson, where we are going to chat about the whole Muppets, Jim Henson universe type dealy. We didn't really figure out a good name for the whole Muppetverse. The Muppetverse, there's a good name for it. Now, I wasn't super knowledgeable about the Muppets. I think keen listeners of the show remember Amy Borlace telling me a little bit about the setup of the Muppets, what it was all about, and I am rather disappointed to say in between then and now, I did not manage to find the time to do some more research on what the Muppets was all about. But lucky for me, Bridie is a massive fan of the Muppets, and she was more than willing to come on the podcast and have a chat about them. So I'm not going to waste any more time ahead. Let's just get straight into the interview. So everybody, Ruddle Maniacs, welcome to the show, Bridie Thomson. Hello, Bridie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So what are we going to talk about today, Bridie?
We're going to talk about the Muppets, but I would like to say it's more generally like the Jim Henson universe, the Muppets multiverse. So just like, it's not just the Muppets show, it's Muppets of every kind.
Yeah, because that's what piqued my interest a little bit, is when you mentioned that there was a shared Jim Henson multiverse, because as we all know, multiverses are very kitsch right now. They're very in.
Oh, yes.
And so we're going to get in on the algorithm there. Just off the top of your head, what kind of universes are also in this Jim Henson verse? You mentioned the Labyrinth and then the Dark Crystal and then Sesame Street in that too?
Yeah, so I think, because Sesame Street actually came before the Muppets show. So, yeah, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, oh gosh, what else is there? Apart from all the side... the thing with this multiverse is it's just suspended of disbelief. Like, it means nothing. If people try to find meaning in the timeline, it means nothing. It's just Muppets.
So it's not a continually evolving story, because they also do things like the Muppets did Treasure Island, which is also really relevant because, like I said before, off the air, I'm currently recording Treasure Island as an audiobook, so I may have to actually watch the Muppets the Muppets version of that.
It is so good. I saw that. Weirdly, a weird like memory I have is that when I went to Australia when I was like, I think 12 or something, there's a 4D ride of Muppets Treasure Island where, like, sand. It's sand in your face.
I think
water, a little bit of water.
I think I've been on this too, actually, now that you mention it. I've definitely been on a pirate-themed 4D thing that shoots water at you. That's just
like
unlocked a bit of a core memory.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I've seen 2 4D movies, and they were both on that trip, and I remember them not at all, but I remember the experience of, wow,
that's
4D.
That's all that sticks with you, isn't it? They also did a Christmas Carol, I think.
Yes, Christmas Carol is one of my favorites. With old one thing we will learn quickly is I'm really bad with names.
That's fine. I probably don't know many of the names, so you can just describe the puppet.
It's not the puppet, it's the guy, Michael Caine.
Oh, yeah. Who does he play in the Muppets Christmas Carol?
He's Scrooge.
Oh, I see. So then is Scrooge a puppet, or is it a character playing one of the puppets? Because I think, was Gonzo like Tiny Tim or something?
Gonzo's, or was Gonzo Scrooge? Tiny Tim was Robin, who's Kermit's nephew.
Oh, I see.
Michael Caine plays Michael Caine. Like, he's the actor.
I see.
Well, no, he doesn't play Michael Caine. He is Michael Caine playing a human role.
Oh, okay, right. So there are
Scrooge
humans.
or whoever. I obviously haven't watched it in a while. But there's usually 1 or 2 humans.
Oh, gotcha. Because that was the thing that fascinated me with Sesame Street, is that they're humans mixed in with the puppets. And Another time was a WWE show where they had the puppets as like all the Muppets were like the guest host for the week, and all the puppets were interacting with the wrestlers, and you would be surprised at
Yeah.
how well they fit into the WWE universe. It was like perfect. It was awesome.
See, I know nothing about this WWE feature, but that sounds like for some reason I feel like I've definitely seen Animal. Like I can see him as a wrestler.
Yeah, well, they did a storyline where, what is the science guy called? Is he Beaker?
Yeah.
So the
Or
Beak,
yeah, Beaker's the orange haired one.
he's the one that says meep 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 over and over again, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he the gimmick they did with him was that they were making this potion that would give it was like superhuman strength and swiftness and all that sort of thing. And there's a comedy wrestler called Santino who was in a match that night, and so the Muppets were trying to get this magic potion to him so that he would be able to win his match. And he was running through the backstage area, and all the bad guy wrestlers were trying to hinder him and stop him from getting to them. And eventually, he did get the potion, and then won his match. But it all just was so seamless.
See, the wrestling world and Muppets world makes perfect sense when you hear it like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Storylines the
It's
same.
it's I guess then you could almost say that WWE is in the Jim Henson verse, because they've done this one crossover episode. Were there any others
Yeah.
that the Muppets have done as a kind of like a remake of other classical movies and books and stuff like that?
Uh there's like the Muppet Great Caper.
Oh,
Is that a Muppets? That's like one of the first movies. Something to me tells me that sounds like an old timey book, but
yeah.
I've not read that.
I haven't seen that one either.
I don't know if there's any other remakes. There's definitely elements that they take from a lot of, you know, classic stuff. Like the other movies off the top of my head is like Muppets in Space. But that's sort of Gonzo's backstory, but it's not. Could be backstory. Who knows? There's
Yeah.
Elmo and Grouchland when Elmo started popping off.
Oh, I have seen
Um,
that one. Yeah. I watched that as a child,
that's
I
a good
think.
one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Um, yeah, like Elmo falls through Oscar's trash can. I just
Is his
remember it being very like Roger Rabbit.
is his
Like
trash can some kind of interdimensional portal to his people's universe? He's a bit like Doctor Who with his
that's what they
trash
say.
can.
Like there's a Grouchland and there's just heaps of different Grouches that are all like different, like just all different. I can't even remember what happens in that movie, but I
No, me
know I
neither.
remember Elmo entering the like
Grouchland.
colors and the pew pew.
Yeah. So I guess we've sort of gone off on heaps of tangents here. I'll see if I can steer it back to something that resembles structure. Um,
Yeah.
so the Muppets show, I've only watched little bits and pieces. I didn't really grow up on it, but I had another episode of the podcast with a friend of mine, Amy. She gave me a little bit of an intro to the Muppets world, and to what I gather, the Muppets show is a variety show, kind of like SNL almost, where they do like skits and song and dance. And then when you're watching it, you're kind of seeing like the behind the scenes bits where Kermit and the others are like backstage being like, whoa, tough crowd tonight, eh? And all that kind of thing.
Yeah. So they recently, or not recently, like 2015 or maybe or something, they came out with like The Office. It like their title card was like The Office, but it was The Muppets, and it was like a behind the scenes show. But the Muppet Show did start as a variety show, I guess. The first episode, my favorite part of it is the first episode of the Muppet Show is called Sex and Violence. And
Yeah.
and I thought because they got picked up in the UK, they didn't get picked up in America, that America was like, we don't want that weird puppet stuff. Um, all I can think is that it was like a Sex Pistols, maybe Sex and Violence came out at the time. But other than that, if you watch it, it's got like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, my assumption was that Sesame Street and the Muppets were both for children, but that's not the case, is it? The Muppets is more of an adult audience it's aimed at, aren't they?
Especially like, yeah, especially in the early days, like, because we were like, my partner and I watched this like, you know, stuff doesn't always age. Not everything can age well when it's from like the 50s, 60s, 70s. And
Very
there's some
much so.
really like really questionable content from Miss Piggy just being overly whatever word you want to use around her, like the male celebrities. And like, yeah, it's definitely not for kids, but then it's meant to be like family friendly.
Yeah, it does have that
So
sort of that vibe of being like PG-13 kind of. There's like a wink and a nod, and then there's some
yeah,
jokes that the adults get, and then some jokes that the kids don't quite understand. Um, how did you kind of get into Muppets? Did you grow up on it as a child? Did you rediscover it later on in life? What was your kind of story with them?
I definitely grew up on Sesame Street. My bedroom wall had glow in the dark Sesame Street stickers on it. They're still there to this day. Not in
Nice.
like in my childhood bedroom. It was just something that I don't even remember watching Sesame Street. I was always drawn to Sesame Street. And then like I guess because I've got like older parents for my age, they knew the Muppets. That was like what you got kids into. Or like yeah, it'd been around. And then it was when I studied film, and then during that time I went on like a puppetry tangent because I was in a show called Avenue Q at the local community theatre, which is Avenue Q is essentially an adult Sesame Street but a musical.
Oh,
It was on Broadway, and it was just the I got to play like 17 different puppets and just run around and do puppetry for a few weeks.
oh, so you're a
Um,
puppeteer yourself?
I would I have to, I that's a bold statement.
A loaded question.
Yeah, my partner is a puppeteer and a puppet maker. So there's like pro master, and then there's baby puppet fan person.
Humble apprentice kind of level.
Yeah, oh man.
Yeah.
I love yeah, and I just really got into puppetry, and I for my last thing, my film degree, I kind of based it on a potential kids show with the prime character being a puppet that I made that was coming to Earth and learning about like global warming and climate
Oh,
change and da da
that's
da da da.
quite an
That
adult
was,
topic.
but it was the
Yeah, yeah.
kids. Like how yeah. And then it just is a natural, like I just got back into the Muppets from there, being like I love puppetry and wanting to learn more about puppetry as a craft.
I was just
That,
talking to
yeah.
someone about this the other day. I went to go and see a David Correos show, and one of his friends works for, like, I don't know, is Tusk Puppets. Is that anything to do with your partner, or is that a different company?
That's I John,
They might,
he definitely probably knows them. And
yeah,
if
for
I was
sure.
to go and be like, "Do you know this?" He'd be like, "Yeah, it's my mates."
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally. Well, but yeah, she was telling me that there are different. You've got the type of puppet that the Muppets are, which is the hand, and then you control the hands with like little sticks attached to them. But then
Hand
there's
prod.
also, is that what they call hand rods?
Yeah.
And the technical term, not hand sticks, surprisingly.
Hand rod puppet.
And then the other one of those ones with that, I don't know what you call it, the marionettes or something, where you can control their whole
Yeah.
body, which apparently is a completely different. It's a different discipline, learning to do these two different ones here. So it's a very small world that I'm now doing a
Yeah.
podcast about this a couple of days later. Um, so then I was gonna say, you that was your getting into it. You are also a stand-up comedian and a voice actor. So would you say that any, like, because the Muppets all have very distinct voices and they have their kind of characters, did anything sort of influence you into the way you perform either of these stand-up comedy or voice acting?
Hmm. I think yeah, the voice like the puppetry and voice acting thing definitely plays hand in hand because I just like making voices and weird noises. I think the thing with the Muppets is that the Muppets are really bad. Like their variety show is none of them are good at what they do, but they do it with such confidence and they have the time of their lives doing it that I think I probably took Miss Piggy being someone I look to as a independent woman and strong. She is so confident in herself that like it's kind of a scale of like, okay, are you Miss Piggy? Like, because she just believes she can do anything and is the most gorgeous, beautiful, talented thing on earth. I definitely don't think that for myself, but I like to take some of her confidence in my stride and be like, you don't think like Miss Piggy. But
would it be fair to say she wasn't intended to be interpreted that way, or do you think that was kind of their plan all along?
She's like the diva type, right? Like there's always I think because Miss Piggy's got she's got a sort of backstory. I think she's from Iowa or something, and had lots of little piglet siblings and had to like crack through the family and like make something of herself. But I think she was really intended to just be like the loud female character.
Okay.
Because there's really not many female characters in the Muppets.
In the whole of the Muppets?
When you think about it, yeah. Like now looking at it, I guess because even if they're like a thing, they're usually a male thing.
Right.
Or like they're not like main characters, so it'll be like someone's mum, someone's auntie, someone's girlfriend from something.
Yeah.
She was really like she filled all of the woman roles.
That was kind of a very 90s kind of thing. Like there's always, there was 2 women in the Power Rangers, so I'm not quite wrong there. I don't know what I'm talking about. I was going to say though, I've always been curious as to what Kermit and Piggy's relationship is. It one-sided, or is Kermit also interested in Miss Piggy?
So Miss Piggy and Kermit is a mutual, but it's an incredibly toxic relationship.
I did not expect to hear you say toxic relationship.
Oh my word. I could go on. I've only recently started enjoying Miss Piggy because I thought she was just quite problematic and abusive for quite a long time.
Right.
And I will only get serious about serious things, and Muppets is really serious.
Serious business.
A serious business. Like she karate chops people out she'll throw Kermit across the park.
That's like, right. She does do karate, doesn't she? That's right.
So I think they sort of got together early. I want to say I read the other day that they were on again, off again for like 40 years.
Wow.
That's incredible.
It really is.
And then they broke up. When did they break up? They broke up at some point. And so one of the newer Muppets movies was about like, I want to get the gang back together, but how are we going to get Miss Piggy to come? Because Miss Piggy was off. I think she was editor for Vogue, and
wow.
And they hadn't. Kermit and Piggy hadn't talked to each other. And then by the end of the movie, they end up together again.
Right.
Which is not much of a spoiler because you never know if they're on again or off again.
I didn't know in the first place, so yeah, that changes nothing as far as I'm concerned.
But they weren't married, so they weren't
living in
tied
sin
to anything. They weren't living in sin. And then they finally properly broke up during The Office, like officially broke up. So I think as of today, they're officially no longer together.
Right.
And
okay.
I think Miss Piggy's dating Topher Grace.
Right.
and Kermit ended up dating like another pig with brunette hair.
Oh, so he's got a type.
He's gonna type.
Oh, Kermit, you dog. What was I going to say? How did was that? Because I do remember Miss Piggy used to kind of swoon at the wrestlers, and so evidently Muppet and human relationships are it's not a big deal.
I don't think I don't think she's fussed on the species of the type of like she's like frog human, let's go.
Very progressive. She really is a feminist icon.
Yeah, questionably so.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Yeah, I think Topher Grace was like because it was her late night talk show. So I think he was just like a guest or something. I can't really remember.
Yeah.
It was because the one thing with the Muppets is they've always got a celebrity guest. So like the Muppet Show, they had a different celebrity guest, never the same one. And so they continued that through like to the most recent season or series of they made a series of The Electric Mayhem, which is the band inside the Muppets world.
That's with the monster or whatever he's called, the drummer.
Animal, yeah.
Oh, Animal, sorry, yeah, monster.
Yeah.
That's Animal, yeah.
He's a monster. Yeah.
I think that's what's so fascinating about the franchise is it's so like it's all over the all over the show. They have all these different formats for TV shows and different, not quite mediums because they're always visual, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I guess there was songs like in the early, well, no, there's always been songs. I think that there's like Jim Henson records and songs, but there's always it's always with a visual element. Yeah. Yeah, I think because at its core, it's all about puppetry. So
do you know much about the history of how the Muppets came about? Like, was this a puppeting type that Jim Henson pioneered, or did he kind of just master it and evidently take it to new levels?
I think he definitely created a really, really specific style. Because I know that like marionettes have been around forever, but because like the way the puppets were used was spanned between like people in mascot sort of suits or two people with like there's just so many different types that yeah, I think he definitely like developed and progressed and adapted and yeah, just like really coined the techniques because they still use the techniques today.
Wow. Is
Yeah.
as time has marched on, I think people maybe look at Walt Disney slightly less favorably. Is Jim Henson still kind of beloved of a figure, or are people kind of I don't want to say turning on him as such, but just what's the perception of Jim Henson like today, if you're aware at all?
Yeah, I actually it's Muppets is a funny one because I guess it attracts just the most wholesome of people and it's because he died like in the 90s, so he's quite long gone, and usually they unearth some tragic stuff. But
something always comes up, doesn't it?
Yeah, as far as I know, and I hope that I hope that I'm not about to Google and find out something devastating news. But I don't think, as far as I know, Jim Henson has not been cancelled.
That is a very, very clever way to put it. I've definitely had to rethink certain sentences that I was about to say on the podcast. I thought, hang on, let's just word this a little smarter to not bite me in the butt in a few years.
How do we word this? But I mean, there's people within the like people who have played certain Muppets that have caused controversy and such.
Yeah, I guess that's the great thing about the fact that they're puppets is they're fairly easy to replace, and people don't really catch on maybe unless the voice changes a tiny bit. But I remember watching. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, you go ahead.
I remember watching a Sesame Street video as to how all the puppets work because I remember thinking to myself like, how do they do Big Bird and how do they do Snuffleupagus and everything? And a lot of them, the people that are performing the characters now, had basically been studying the previous puppeteer and almost like inherited the role. And I remember thinking like, what happens if you get someone who can't do the voice, right? Like, does the character's voice just change and people have to deal with it? Or, but yeah, I don't know. That's it's quite a cool. I like the idea that the character's getting passed down to student from teacher I don't know, whenever the teacher retires, I suppose.
Yeah, well, one of the controversies was that the new guy who in the Muppets series, the newer one, like 2015 one, the guy who was playing Kermit, like, didn't get on with anyone and was like, his notes were real insane or something. But his Kermit was just not Kermit. Like, if
Oh,
you're going to be a Muppets purist, like, you listen to it, you're like, man, that's not Kermit. That's not
so
my Kermit.
that
But
je ne sais quoi was not there?
yeah, it was Kermit, but it was an impression of Kermit,
I understand.
um, voice wise. But yeah, then he ended up going. Um, Frank,
Talent will only take you so far, right? You do have to be good
that,
with people, or you at least have to coexist with people in your kind of castmates, don't you?
yeah, well, especially when you're essentially laying on top of each other for 8 hours of a day with your arms pits in each
Because
other's faces.
they sit on those little roller chairs and wheel around the
Yeah,
set, don't they? So
yeah.
we've got about 7 minutes left. Let's kind of wrap up on maybe some kind of rapid fire questions, and
Okay.
then we can have some closing thoughts. So, have you ever like made a fan, I don't know, not like a fanfic, but like a fan Muppet, if you could add any character, but like you have complete control. You are the Muppet. What would your character be if you were going to join the Muppets like tomorrow?
Oh man. Um, I think like a mix between Janice and Miss Piggy. But so at the very start, I know I've never been able to figure out who the Muppet is, but they're like I would be a human person Muppet, a humanoid, if you will, and just like real lanky and long and probably I can't believe I haven't thought about this. Just real dopey. A very
Okay.
dopey Muppet.
By
Probably
humanoid, you mean sort of like Bert and Ernie kind of, are they
yeah.
humans? I'm not quite sure what they're supposed to be.
I think it's a humanoid, yeah.
Do you,
Or like
uh,
I'd be a monster, like a furry monster.
that'd be cool. Okay, so next question. Do you have a favorite like song and dance number from the whole history of the Muppets?
I mean, the feeling I have when I hear the Muppets show song, and that song's like followed me through my life. So when I did speech and drama, like as like a kid, the Muppets show was our little theme song. Um, so watching it and hearing it, it's just so good. Really
Mm,
gets you jazzed.
it is quite a catchy song. What was my next question be? Are there any characters who have left the Muppets that you wish you could bring back?
I don't know if anyone's really left. I think I know who I'd like to see more of.
Yeah, let's go with that.
And
Who would you like to see more of?
there's a Muppet called New Zealand he's got nothing to do with New Zealand, but he kind of looks like a little Shakespearean dude, and his special talent is that he throws fishes.
Fair
I
enough.
everyone hates him, like everyone thinks he's the
Ah,
worst, but I really like him.
New Zealand. I'll have to Google that after this. So then, let's flip that question. Say if there was a character that you would like to see them feature less, or you feel it's just too much, who would you shuffle to the supporting cast?
I I don't know what people feel about this, but I think Scooter.
Which one is Scooter?
So Scooter's like orange. He's kind of like the production manager, stage manager.
Oh
He's
yes.
orange. He's just a guy. And he was played by Frank Oz, who is my favorite performer. He was Yoda in Miss Piggy. That was my fun fact I wanted to slip in.
Mm.
But Scooter, I'm just like, he's just a guy. He's just a hardworking guy, and like good for him. But
But we don't need that much of Scooter.
I can do without Scooter. I feel
Taylor
like
Swift is just like, yeah, get rid of Scooter.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Rightly so.
Right.
Although to be fair, she made billions off that tour, so I think he might have
Yeah.
actually helped just make her rather than
Yeah. And I think Scooter is actually the like Muppet Scooter is actually a good guy.
yeah,
I don't
that's true.
dislike him.
Yeah.
I just
It's just yeah, we just don't need him right. We don't need as much of him. I can understand
yeah.
that. Um, so I think we'll finish on this question. If you could see any piece of literature, movie, etc., done with the Muppets, and you get to cast it and stuff like that, do you have any thoughts as to what you'd like to see remade or reimagined with the Muppets? And if you have any thoughts on like leading cast.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, this discussion has come up with someone's Facebook post, but there's Deadly, oh my gosh, what's his name? Miss Piggy would be like magenta. And I could go, this is the huge question, but Rocky Horror Picture Show, any ensemble show, but I think I would like to see, I'm going to be thinking about this for a really long time.
Probably not the best question to ask with 2 minutes left of the Zoom call, to be honest. But no,
there's so many characters.
Yeah, no kidding. The casting one was a bit of a bad question to throw in. We were on the time crunch. This has just flown by, to be honest. Where can the people find more of you online? Where would you like to direct them?
Probably I'm trying to do the Instagram thing maybe this year. But Bridie Thomson on anything, Bridie, and that is Thomson with no P.
Just like my local swimming pool, hopefully.
Yeah, my mum says that we're not wet.
They always put that. They just write OOL and then they write, see how there's no P in it, keep it that way. So good way to remember it. Have you got anything coming up you'd like to plug? Any gigs or anything like that?
No gigs yet, except in April I'll be in Wellington doing gigs.
That we can't announce because they're embargoed at the moment?
Nah, Fems and Thems and the Neurodiverse Night in April in Wellington. And I'm sure some stuff will come up. This might get weird. February the 13th at the Wine Cellar in Auckland. It's an improv show.
There you go. So thank you so much, Bridie. This interview has absolutely flown by. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm sure we'll have you back to talk about one of your many other, what did you call them, fixations or obsessions?
Yeah,
I can't quite. Hyperfixations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed the conversation. It just absolutely flew by. Did not feel like 40 minutes at all. I certainly learnt a lot about the history of the Muppets, as well as why Miss Piggy is actually quite the feminist icon of a character. And apparently how toxic the relationship between Miss Piggy and Kermit has been all these years, although apparently over. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. Bridie and I had a chat last week sometime, and there's a few topics that she'd like to come on and chat about on the podcast, so you can look forward to seeing Bridie make a return sometime in the future. I really hope that audio isn't coming up, but literally a street sweeper just drove past my bedroom window. It's always the damn time that you decide to record is when the garbage truck or the street sweeper or what have you decides to come rumbling past. So apologize if that audio came up in your ears there, but fingers crossed it didn't. I'll have a check in the post-show editing. And if you're hearing this, that means very likely the audio did not show up. So given that there wasn't a super long interview, probably got a little bit of time for a bit of a life update. What's been going on with me? So we're into the third week of January now. It'll be the fourth week by the time this episode drops. I am still chugging away. We've got the usual gigs kind of running every week. We've got the Laugh Cellar on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 o'clock, $10 entry. The first two shows that we had were absolutely gangbusters, basically standing room only. I'm really hoping that's going to be a good omen for 2024. The usual quiz nights, as always, Bridie's Bar on Tuesdays from 7:30pm and Moi Moi from 6:30pm, both of those free to play. Had a bit of a chat with Sam from G Quiz the other day, and he's hoping on expanding the quizzes that we're running in Christchurch, so the possibility of us adding another quiz or two to our weekly repertoire are quite high. Things are going relatively well for me. I can't quite announce it just yet, but I've got some cool news for the podcast that will probably be announced within the next week or so. I'm not quite sure yet, but very cool news that will be just super beneficial for the growth of the podcast. We've, of course, got the live edition of Ruddle Me This at Little Andromeda on the 13th of February, the day before Valentine's Day. Check out the Little Andromeda website to get tickets to those. I'm really looking forward to doing that live in person and hoping that the people that come out are fans and not just hoping that they can, I don't know, like hurl abuse at me in person. I don't know. But yeah, the machine ticks on. I'm still not 100% cash flow positive yet, but I'm working on getting a regular Beats by Bingo gig set up and then potentially another quiz night. So if I can get both of those up and running, do a little bit of the podcast. Hopefully the podcast can generate a little bit of money this year. And I should be sitting relatively pretty to not be homeless, which is always a plus. I've been thinking about how I can find some voiceover work online, so I'm going to be going the Fiverr route and just see if I can upload my voice reel to Fiverr and maybe get a little bit of voiceover work on the side, I suppose, but it's not really on the side if it's your main, if you're unemployed. So if you've got some voiceover work you'd like me to do, I'd be more than happy to take a crack at it. So just flick me a DM on the Facebook. I think that's about it, really. We've got those 2 fundraiser shows for the Cancer Society coming in February as well, but I will be talking to you much, much sooner than that, so I will be able to keep you updated on that. As always, follow the Can Do Comedy Facebook page, follow Taylor Ruddle Comedy on all the comedy platforms, and I think we'll just wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Thanks to Bridie for coming on the show. Hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you. Hope you're getting back into the swing of the new year, and I hope 2024 goes swimmingly for you. I'll talk to you again very soon. Ruddler out.